look at Sean Manaea's season last year, what do you think kind of went wrong with him when in totality?
Yeah, I think you can look back from the very beginning, first few weeks of camp. Somewhere around this time where he mentioned that oblique injury. And it took him a while to get back on the field. I think he had a setback as he was going through his rehab progression, and I don't think he ever got to a place that he felt that he was the guy, that we saw in 2024. By the time he got to the big leagues, in big league competition, he's in the middle of a pennant race or middle of a year, and it's not easy. It's not easy. So I think that's where it starts for me. From the very beginning, dealing with health issues. Good thing he's healthy now. Had a very good off season, and I'm really looking forward to watching pitch.
What do you think overall when you look at this rotation? What do you think of it?
What do I think of it?
Yeah, as far as the depth, the quality.
Everything you mentioned, depth, quality. We got righties, lefties, a lot different arsenals from so many of them. Guys that done it before, that for some reason, whether it's Senga, is one of them. The 2 years that I've been here after the 2023 season that he had, we saw flashes of it at the beginning of the year last year. We saw what a healthy Manaea can do. Clay Holmes was a workhorse for us the whole year, taking the baseball, making that transition. You got Nolan McLean. We all saw what he was able to do at the end of last year. The trade for Peralta. And then when we're looking at the depth, you got a guy like Tobias Meyer, who we saw today, that is getting stretched out to be a starter and see where we at after, like I mentioned earlier. And then the Jonah Tongs of the world. And, you start naming a lot of guys that you like the depth, you like the quality. So there's a lot to like there.
What do you want to see from Tong this spring? What's the next step for him?
Yeah, look, this is his first big league camp. People forget that. He made his major league debut last year in the middle of a pennant race, and here he is. I want him to enjoy it. I want him to learn as much as possible from every guy that we have in that room. And I want him to go out there and be himself. We know the fastball. We know the changeup. He's working on a cutter. He's working on the secondary pitches, whether we want to call it that, the slider. And I want him to go out there and continue to develop all of his pitches, compete, and to prepare for his year. He's going to pitch for us, and we're going to need him. So, again, learn, have fun, and let the rest take care of itself.
What did you think of Tong and Myers today as well?
Both pretty good. You look at this early in camp, and credit to all of them, especially our starters, that they show up to camp in ready to go throughout their bullpen progressions to a point where, like, you got those two guys throwing 2 innings today, whether it was Jonah at 34 and Tobias at 27, but we saw it with Clay yesterday. And I mentioned the WBC, but I went back and looked. He did exactly the same thing last year when he was making that transition. The first live BP that he went out there, he was 3 ups, 40-some pitches early in February. So you got to give those guys credit. And again, those two guys today, the live on the fastball on both of them was pretty good. They working on their secondary pitches, like I mentioned on Jonah. Same thing with Tobias. That changeup, that split was really good, and just getting the feedback from the hitters too. I think it's important now in early in camp where you're facing some pretty good hitters, and then when they come back in the dugout, and that feedback from them is important. So again, good session for both of them, and that's what we expect from pretty much every guy here in camp that is getting built up as a starter.
With Jonah, we know he has the stuff, and especially the fastball. Is it when he, integrating new pitches? Is it about sequencing and learning when to throw things?
Yeah, and that comes with experience. Getting innings under his belt, just knowing that the fastball plays, the changeup plays, but you also have some other weapons there that you could use, whether it's early in counts to get swing and misses, to get chases. So there's a lot there that, again, experience, and the more that he takes the baseball, he'll get those.
You did touch on it a little bit, but just how far along they are in their progression. What does that do for you as a manager, perhaps Justin as a pitching coach, just where they are to be able to hit the ground running? How can you kind of work off of that, as spring goes on?
Yeah, it's a good place to be in. But again, we got to continue to be mindful. The communication is going to be super important here, getting the feedback from them and how are they recovering every time they touch the mound. Like I said, we have to be mindful with these guys because we need these guys healthy. So, but again, 2 ups for 2 guys today. You saw it from Clay yesterday. You're probably going to see it with Nolan coming up here in the next day or 2. It gives us a good foundation to work off, but again, be smart about it.
How important is it for guys like Nolan and Clay that are pitching in the WBC just to be able to see them at this point before they go and, start their WBC?
Yeah, it's always good. But again, I don't think Clay did anything differently in preparation for the WBC. Like I mentioned, he had the same outing last year around this time. Same thing with Nolan. These is guys that kept throwing. You got to give those guys credit to the pitching group because they had so many calls and the back and forth and putting together the program to make sure that when they got to this spot that they were in a good place, right? But yeah, I think they're ready to go, and it's good to see.
What do you make of the defensive adjustments that Francisco Alvarez made after coming back from AAA last year, and what have you seen from him early in spring training?
Yeah, look, it was a huge improvement in his overall game. You asked about the defensive side, the receiving, the blocking was a lot better, the throwing, the game calling. There was a lot there that, after he spent those weeks down in the minor leagues, it was kind of like a reset for him. But credit to him, credit to the people in player development as well. And again, those are he's our guy, right? He's in a good place right now. We are going to be mindful with him as well. We know that he wants to take 200 swings a day. He wants to catch every side, and we're going to have to pull him back. So, but I like where he's at right now.
Just what do you think the back and forth will be when you start to evaluate who's going to be here opening day with Mauricio, whether he's better served playing every day to get those at bats in the minors as opposed to potentially being on the bench here?
Yeah, playing time is going to be important for him. He spent the last 2 months last year and didn't get much of a playing time. He has that option, and we've been pretty clear and honest about that. It's all about his development. He missed a whole year, and now when you talk to him, he's just happy to be in camp healthy without any restrictions. The past couple of years, there's always like a progression. Last year we didn't even see him in camp. Right now, this early, he's full go. So he's going to get an opportunity here. He's going to get some playing time. But when it comes down to make those decisions, that's going to be a factor too.
Carlos, what do you like about MJ Melendez, and what's his path to making this team this spring?
The versatility is what comes to mind. A guy that can play the outfield, a guy that can play first base, emergency catcher, if you want to call it, because he's got that type of experience, even though he hasn't done it in a while. A lefty bat with some pop, and I think there's more in the tank. He's coming off a couple of down years, but I remember when he first came up to the league, he was a pretty good player. So, again, he's going to get an opportunity here, and I'm excited to have him.
Saw you with a stopwatch with Bo today. You mentioned the timing yesterday. What are just some of the things you want to see? Because you mentioned, on the plays to first, to take your time, and then the second, the plays, double plays, where you have to get it out quick. So what's kind of just that balance for you?
Yeah, it's a pretty common drill that infielders do just to get a feel for the timing, right? So the ball's put in play, by the time that ball gets to the first baseman, right? So we talk about that game clock yesterday and understanding how much more time you have. So it was just me basically. I wasn't looking for anything. I wanted to give you the feedback. So all right, man, like that was a 4-3 right there, and he thought he was super slow. Then so that the back and forth there when he's asking the time there, and there was plays where he thought he was super slow, and I gave him the numbers, and it's like, man, that's crazy. Same thing when he was doing the double play. So it was a very good session today, the tempo. So it was, like I said, overall a good day of work for Bo.